Hello everyone. We're at the point where we've just hit the anniversary of 10,000 days since the Montreal Canadiens, or a Canadian team, won the Stanley Cup. It has been that long, so it's a long, long time, 1995. And so I wanted to run down what were the odds, or what are my thoughts, and then obviously getting your thoughts afterwards on one of the current Canadian teams to win the premiership, that's AFL, win the Stanley Cup this upcoming season. Not who's next going to win it, that is a video down the road, but who could win it this next season. We're going to start with who got the furthest, and then we're going to go to last. That's why we're going to do this. So, let's start with the Vancouver Canucks. They got the furthest through. They actually won a playoff round. No other Canadian team managed to do that this year. So, yeah, big deal to win a actual playoff round. So, what are my thoughts on this team, the Vancouver Canucks? They have some pretty big flaws, and they lost players like Stretcher in the off season. Toffoli's another one that they lost, which is those are big misses. I mean, Stretcher didn't really get where it needed to be, but Toffoli was a really good player, especially in the playoffs. And it's a lot to do with some of the contracts that they had. Louis Eriksson, Brendan Sutter. If your team's bad, by all means go sign some contracts out there, but you need to make sure that you're not jeopardizing your future. So overpay them for a year or two, that's fine, but don't go to years 3, don't go to years 4, and don't go to years 5. And it's cost them some really good players. Tanev, I think, is very underrated for this team. He really was in the playoffs a bit of this team's heartbeat, but yeah, they're just not going to be as good. They're just not going to be as good. And I know Demko had some great games, and what if Demko... Goalies can be good for a week. And I think there's an actual talent there. I do think there's an NHL player. I think Holtby rounds that out nicely. But, I mean, Ferland does not replace Toffoli. I just think that their blue line is a little bit thin. Obviously, they've got Quinn Hughes and Nate Schmidt. Like, they're great, but I don't like if there's an injury somewhere in there, there's just no one really to come up and run that puck. Their forward line is wanting outside of a few names. I actually think that if there's an all-Canadian division, this team may not have what it takes to make the playoffs. And I know that's big. That's pretty big from the way that they went this year. I just don't think they will be consistent. And the way that some of these Canadian teams are built, it might get a bit scary for them. I don't think they have what it takes to match it. I don't think they can play the speed game. I don't think they play the real brutal physical game. I know they've got some older players that will try to play that game, but I just don't think it will protect the Stars enough. I just don't think that this team's got what it takes, unfortunately. Bear in mind, this team was one of the funnest teams to watch this playoffs, and I loved watching them. I did a lot of live streams, doing watch-alongs with you guys, and had an absolute blast covering them. I just think them making the playoffs and doing well was very similar to Colorado doing it a few years ago and the Calgary Flames doing it a few years ago. They're on the right path. They've got some really good pieces, but they're probably 3 years too early. And we move into the teams that won on their little wild card game thing, but didn't technically win a playoff round. And we're going to start with the Calgary Flames. Oh boy, we might as well call them Vancouver Canucks because they just signed everyone from Vancouver. They picked up Tanev, Markstrom, and a couple of little other pieces there. This team actually does start to look pretty devastating that they may go on a bit of a run. I like their defensive pickup. I like their forward line structure, especially if they can get Gaudreau going. A lot of the smaller forwards last year just struggled to score, so it wasn't just him. A lot of people were like, what happened? Anyone that was like below 5'8", for some reason, just did 20 points less than they've ever done before, so I'm not sure what that says about that. There's still a few like good little defenders sort of running around at the moment. They've got a little bit of cap space. I wouldn't mind them going out and just shoring up that blue line or going out and getting a small scoring forward. But yeah, they mostly added this season. So I would actually say that this team is my percentage booster of this is probably the Canadians' best bet. Right here, the Calgary Flames. I really like this lineup. I like Lindholm. I've liked Lindholm for quite a while. I think they've got a good chance of have some bottom six scoring. They've got some good youngsters that haven't played in the NHL that can come in and make a bit of a difference. They just need Monahan, Kachuk, and Gaudreau to get it together. That's where it's going to live and die. They've rounded out this blue line a little bit. They've got Hannafin. If Giordano can just stay healthy and play at that level that he could play 2-3 years ago, and Markstrom to play like he did at Vancouver, this team can win rounds. And when you can win rounds, you can start to sort of pick up that momentum. They're a bit built for playoffs as well. That it just reminds me a lot of a Boston team here. I know Lucic kind of rounds that out a little bit, but they are a gritty team. They're a little bit annoying to play. I wouldn't mind, a forward that could really start doing something. They picked up Dominic Simon from the Penguins. That's a pretty good little lower scoring forward. They just need a wiry little guy that just can start a bit of trouble and pick up some goals. Like a Maroon would be great for this lineup, just someone like that. But obviously you can't say that about everyone. Maroon's won back-to-back cups and it's the easy name to say. But yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if they actually won a round and started to do a bit of damage in the playoffs. This is kind of my go-to lock that I would put, I would say theoretically they have a chance to win the cup. Then we move to probably a team that had a very interesting off-season in Canadien de Montreal. Oh boy, what a fun little season that they had. They've got a lot of draft picks the next year too. They've just got all of the second, thirds, and fourth and fifth rounds. They've got 3 in some of those rounds. So they're pretty built to have a big draft next year. They beat the Penguins. I'm not salty about that as a Penguins fan. I'm definitely not crying a little bit. And they brought in Tyler Toffoli, which I think is a great ad for this team. It really does start to replace that Pacioretty miss of being able to just get some goals, get a goal scorer in. But they still have some massive problems in that. I really like Philip Deneau. I really do love him. I actually think he's a really, really good player. He's not a first-line center. Max Domi for Josh Anderson, that really could hurt them. I know Domi didn't do well with the coaching staff and didn't get along and was being, not used correctly, but Josh Anderson on that long contract could really, really hurt. I wouldn't mind them going out and trying to get someone, but right now they've got very little cap space, especially with what they've done with Jake Allen. They've still got Alsner on the books. That Joel Edmondson deal. They're a hard team to play against. I understand that. Romanoff is another thing that you need to think of, is that, if he can be what, people are touting him to be. And then you got Suzuki, Kotkaniemi. There's a real good core of young talent. I just don't think... I think what we saw last year was... I just don't think they're ready yet. If Carey Price plays lights out, then of course they can make it into the playoffs. I just don't like them winning more than one round. I think pretty much what you saw last season, winning that wild card round and getting to the playoffs and giving the Flyers a good run for their money. And believe you me, they'll be a hard team to verse and they might be able to squeak a win, but I think that's their ceiling. I can't see them getting to the conference final. I just can't see it. I just think there's too many teams that will exploit the issues in this team. Even if Price stands on his head, he can't stand on his head for an entire playoffs. Or at least you can't bet on that to happen. And I like what they did in the offseason. I think they've made some great steps. They've got some great young talent coming through. And look, they've got heaps of draft picks next year, so it's not the worst year in the world to just be slightly bad or just middle of the road. Get a little bit more in the draft, keep retooling, keep being smart with everything, and they might be able to move on. But this lineup reminds me a lot of the Arizona Coyotes, better than the Arizona Coyotes, but a lot of pieces that make a lot of money. There's a lot of $5 million, a lot of $4 million, a lot of $3 million contracts. And without a bona fide superstar, it's hard, man. It's really, really difficult. Next year, they don't have a ton of cap space. I mean, they have a little bit, but they've got a fair few deals. They've got Kotkaniemi to re-sign. They've got Lehkonen. They've got Danault. They've got Tatar. I think Tatar walks at the end of the season. And they might be able to trade him for some pieces at the deadline. And I think that's what you need to look at. It's just a transition year to see what they can do with their next steps. You just hope that Josh Anderson contract doesn't come back to bite you in the ass. But hey, it's not terrible. I don't think they're going to have a terrible season, but probably not going to win anything. Now for the Leafs, they didn't win their wildcard series, but they won 2 games in it, so they're the next ranked team. A few of the others only managed to win 1, but we'll get to those teams. The Leafs, oh boy. Haven't been able to get out of the first round for a while. This year didn't even make it to the first round, technically. The way I'm dealing with it is that a wild card was not a playoffs. It was a wild card. You had to be into that 16 to be in the playoffs. So what did they do in the off-season and where are their chances? I still don't think that they are going to take the next step to win a Stanley Cup. I think they're a few years away from that. There's a few reasons for that. I'll run through it now. I didn't like the Wayne Simmons deal. I get it. He's from there. You think you're getting that grit and that grind. I don't think he has much to give in this league anymore. I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I've always loved Wayne Simmons, even though he was a Flyer. He's one of my favorite Flyers. Being a Penguins fan, it's really hard for me to say that. But yeah, like he had tons of talent. And I get Buffalo was a hard place to play, but he just never really moved the needle there. And I just don't think he's going to fit in with this lineup. Robertson, I don't think starts in the team. Just with the way they're capped, they're a little bit over it. Even though they're able to get some pretty good deals. From Dermott and Mikheyev, they were able to sign very recently. And they were able to bring in some other pieces. Jimmy Vesey, I think, is a pretty handy little signing. Spezza, coming back. Joe Thornton, again, same deal. I just don't think this helps them. I get it, $700,000, but I don't think this helps them. I think definitely moving on from one of Johansson or Kapanen was needed, but probably not both of them. TJ Brody hasn't been the TJ Brody of old lately, so getting him for a few years, you hope that works out. Lettinen looks like he might be ready. Sandin, there's a few good pieces here into the lineup. I really like the Bogosian signing. I just think he's a little bit slow, but he does add that grit that the defense needs, and you could tell was missing when Muzzin left. You look at, there's a video I'm making soon, which is teams with a $10 million or more contract on their team and how none of them have won a single playoff round since signing one. And I think there's about 13 in the league since the cap era started. Reason for that is they just take up too much percentage of the cap. And usually you go, yeah, it's going to suck for a couple of years, maybe 2, but then the cap will outweigh that. Well, the cap's not going up. And I think that's really affected the Maple Leafs more than any other team because they got 3 of those contracts on this team. And I really do think it's hurt them from going out and getting one piece or keeping a Kapanen, which I think would have been great for this lineup if they could have kept him. Just because I think he adds that top 9, like that third line winger sort of thing, like a Hagelin. That's sort of skill set that you kind of need to win. And it's the same with the Penguins. They had Malkin nearly at $10 million and Crosby making 8.7 and Letang making big hits. And they were able to win cups down the road when those cap hits were less of a percentage. So I think that this team is primed and shouldn't panic. I actually think when it comes to COVID, they're probably one of the most screwed teams. It's affected them the most, even though they can always spend to the cap. The fact that those 3 contracts are going to be right against the cap for the percentage is going to be so big for so long, it might affect them winning. Anderson, I feel like, just doesn't have it in him to win an entire playoffs. To just go from go one to the end. Jack Campbell's unproven. I think they could definitely win a round this year. I'm hoping they get past that hurdle. They might even make it to the conference final. I just think ultimately they're probably just not going to be the one to get the glass slipper at the end of the day. They're a better team. I just don't think that what they've done is the be-all and end-all. A lot of Leafs fans are super excited, but you can go see a lot of the Leafs fan stuff from the start of last year and the start of the year before. They get very excited. And last year, this team was pretty bad for huge stretches. And a lot of that, Simmons is not changing that. They still have massive holes in this lineup. What is Kerfoot? Does he fit in this lineup? Brody might drive this fan base insane. They have a real run of, if a defender's not good immediately, they will run him out of town. So it's going to be interesting. Hull, I really was not impressed by it. I must admit, I didn't watch a lot of Leafs games, but in that series against the Blue Jackets. Hole looked like he looked like a call up from the AHL, not someone that's on a $2 million contract for the next 3 years. So yeah, they're probably second for me to potentially win a cup, but the percentage would be really low. If I was to give the Flames like maybe a 5% shot of winning a cup, maybe 10%, maybe even 10%. I do kind of rate them pretty high with what they're able to do in their lineup. I would give the Leafs a very low rating, maybe 1 or 2% to be able to win it. However, don't at me in the comments, because I actually think that this is probably the team that will be the first Canadian team to win the next cup. It's just not this year. I don't think it's this next season coming up. I think the whole Canadian division's going to be great for a lot of the rivalries there. I just don't think that it's going to be fun. And they still have that, oh no, what do we do? What do we do if stuff goes wrong in the playoffs? And they're going to have that for a while. So yeah. Now we head to the Jets, which I think was almost everyone's favourite to be the next Canadian team to win a cup a few years ago. However, that has not worked out at all. And their defensive, their blue line is pretty well been just gutted. Trouba, Bufflin gone. That's a huge two pieces. I think Morrissey's actually a really good defender. I think he's like in the top 20 in the league and very underrated. But after that, it's pretty big. It's a pretty big gap. Lucas Abiza is a name that is on that blue line, so that's something that you don't want to hear. The forward line is it's just getting older. Wheeler puts on another year. Stasny, who's come back in, puts on another year. Doesn't look like Little's going to be coming back. I think he might actually be done. Shifley this is where it starts to get interesting about the trading Lane thing. Because if they do trade away Lane, does then Shifley want out? He's one of the best players right now, and he's on track to never win a cup. Because there's a lot to do with this team. It's almost to the point where they might need to rebuild again. Or at least be bad for a few years. And the ideal thing would be to keep Shifley and keep Lane and rebuild for a few years. But they've got a lot to do. They've really got a lot to do. I'm not super familiar with a lot of their prospects, but I know it's not a huge depth pool. So, yeah, I'm really worried about this team. Whatever they get back for Lane won't be enough. I think he really improved some parts of his game last year, and you're looking at an absolute superstar if you trade him away. That I think is something that will be a video on someone's YouTube channel 20 years from now and be like, can you believe like one of the best goal scorers in modern history was traded? But yeah, they've still got really good pieces, Shifley, Ehlers, Lane, but yeah, I think they're definitely not even making the playoffs this next year with that defensive core. Hullebuck is the wild card, the joker. If he plays to that extremely high level, they could win. They could get to a playoff round. They might even win a series, but they're not going to go any further than that. They are probably one of the worst teams in right now when it comes to Canadian teams, and we're going to go through some of the others. And that's a big call to make, seeing that like Ottawa is on that list. But yeah, it's not been a good time. Edmonton Oilers, another team to win one game during the wildcard series. Getting there, this team. Getting there. They've still got a long way to go. I don't like Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith as their goaltending unit again. I don't think many people enjoy that. It's how far can the big stars take them? They've got McDavid, Draisaitl, Nuge. Nuge is a UFA at the end of this year, so that's going to be very, very interesting if he sticks around. I think that's going to be fascinating. Poyavi comes back, so he might be able to take the next step. And if they can get a scoring winger, if they can get someone else that can score, that takes a lot of pressure off. A lot of pressure off this team, and they can start doing some funky stuff around the line. Carl Turris coming in as well, I think really does help out. It gives options when it comes to centres, because he can play third line. Yamamoto was looking really good until the pause. Looked a bit out of sorts in the playoffs, but we'll see how that all goes. Defense-wise, it's mostly the same cast coming back. Tyson Barrie is the only newbie after getting rid of Matt Benning. And we'll see what Tyson Barrie ends up working out. He really got shafted, I think, with his time at the Leafs. And before that, he was really out of form as well. So is that the trend, or can they get a resurgence? If they can get a resurgence and get a good defender, that's what they need. They just need... to be honest, they don't need the best defense in the world. They just need some competent people to be in those top four roles, and I just don't think they have that at the moment. But yeah, they've got a lot to figure out. They've got a lot of UFAs at the end of the year. They've got Nuge, Chason, Larson, Berry, and then they've got to fix up this goaltending. And yeah, they don't have a huge amount of cap space this year, but obviously a lot comes off the books. But you think Nuge is probably going to want more than $6 million. We'll see what he can muster. Yeah, it's really going to be how fucking McDavid and Draisaitl take this ship. But yeah, outside of that, they just haven't done well drafting. They're not like the Penguins or the Blackhawks when they had the superstars, but they were always able to find gems in the third round, and they just never really have been able to find any of those gems or get any luck. So yeah, Tyler Ennis coming back as well. Yeah, this team will make the playoffs. I think they're going to do very well in Canada. I think they'll be a bit streaky, but I think they can do pretty well in a short stretch of time. I mean, they have probably two of the best players in the league, arguably at least two of the top 5 best players in the league, and the best. But that only can take you so far, and then when you get into a matchup where you verse a single team for 7 games, it's just not going to line up well. So I think they make the playoffs. I don't think they win a round. I think it's going to be very similar to the last year. I don't think it'll be quite as poor as losing to the Blackhawks, but yeah, that's where it's at. And last but not least, the Ottawa Senators. They get a New Jersey this year. It looks actually quite good. Probably the most improved of all the Canadian teams in the off-season. They did really, really well. They signed Datnoff, which was a very, very good piece of business that offers a lot of scoring, $5 million a year for 3 years. If it doesn't work out, they can trade him. There's so many options there for that contract. Austin Watson, re-signing Chris Tierney, and then, picking up small pieces along the way, getting Matt Murray. So it was a pretty good little off-season for them. And they haven't they haven't sold off the future to be able to do this as well. They also drafted, very interestingly, they also bought out Bobby Ryan, by the way, so that's something to look at. They picked up Stutzler, which is, a really good, really good pick that I think is going to help them for a very long time. And then they didn't get Drysdale, which would, I think, if they had Kachuk, Stutzler, and Drysdale, I think then you've got a modern day basis of a Taze, Kane, Keith. That's how well I rate all of those players there. Just 3 really good players. I don't know if Stutzler will end up being a center in this league. I'm still jury's out on that, but they're gonna be so good. So yeah, I'm really curious what this team does and where they go from here. Are they gonna make the playoffs? Probably not. And if Matt Murray, can get to average, I think they're gonna win a lot of games and they're gonna cause some dramas in this if there's a Canada only division. But they're not gonna win. I mean, they're not gonna win enough. But I love the steps that they're going. I think they're going to be very streaky, similar to like the Buffalo Sabres, I would say. I would say that that's a good kind of mark of where they might be at next year. Might win 10 in a row, might have a really good month, but then, that bill's got to come at some point. You look at the lineup and you look at what they've got in the blue line and a few other pieces. I just don't see them being as competitive as a lot of the Canadian teams that pretty much all of them, besides the Jets and Vancouver, improved a decent amount in the off-season. So they're kind of the odd man out, but they're improving, and this is the team to be really interested in going forward. Like, this is the one that's like, okay, so, I mean, is this kind of... I mean, it's always got that asterisk, because you never know what they're going to do with their stars, whether they're going to pay them or trade them away. Carlson's a prime example of that. But they're starting to build the building blocks together to be a force to be reckoned with in 5 years down the road. So... how does that all look? Obviously, there's a lot of time to happen between now and then. They've drafted pretty well the last 2 years, I've thought. So, So there's a lot to be interested about in this team. Anyway, guys, that is the whole video. So yeah, do you agree with me that there's really only 2 contenders that might win a cup in the Flames and the Leafs? I just don't think any of their time is next season. I will make a video of who I think the next team to win the Stanley Cup as a Canadian team. In the next week or two. I'll let this one breathe for a bit and then I'll make another one. And spoiler alert, I think that's the Leafs. But I just think they're a few years away. I think they need the cap to rise, get some of these percentages to come down of how much of the cap it takes, and just be able to get 1 or 2 more pieces and then really breathe from there. But yeah. Anyway, guys, if you did like this video, hit the like button. Otherwise, hit subscribe down below if you made it all this way and you haven't. We've picked up quite a few subscribers in the last few days, so I really do appreciate all of you. Plus, as you can tell, I put a fair bit of work into this video, so I really would appreciate it. Comment down below, do you think I'm right? Which Canadian team do you think has the best chance of winning, and what percentage do you give that team to win? That's a good one. Who do you give and what percentage, not of all the Canadian teams, of all the teams to actually win the Stanley Cup? That's why I just like the Flames. I don't know why. I think they've got all the little pieces there to be able to go on a good run. Anyway, have a great day. See you, and bye.